Four Nights of the Apocalypse chapter 171 is officially out, and this was another great chapter. And man, do I see people getting very upset with this chapter, and I can see why, but at the same time, it's still a pretty damn good chapter in my opinion. And sets up for a fight that I'm curious to see how it'll pan out and how things will progress going forward. Before we jump into things, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps and it shows you enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. Also, want to make an announcement. If I make it to at least 30k by the end of the year, I will 100% start doing the 7 Deadly Sins manga retrospective reviews, as well as Fairy Tail manga retrospective review. That will be throughout the course of 2025, so if I make it to 30k by the end of the year, I will do these retrospective reviews 100%. So the ball's in your court. But with that out of the way, let's jump right into the video. So chapter 171 of Four Nights of the Apocalypse, titled Rage. And cover image is just Chibi Team Percival walking around the corner with Percival literally holding Nazien's hand and An just hanging onto his arm. Look, the harem allegations ain't going away anytime soon. We got it. It's just fun at this point. But we start directly from last week's chapter after An unleashed a barrage of blows, knocking Diodora back, as this is concerning for his two attendants. As Diodora slammed onto the ground, everybody's incredibly impressed with how well An has done and how strong she's gotten, as well as the fact that in such a short span of time she's gotten so used to her new weapon, and it's nice seeing Dubs very impressed. But Diodora refuses to lose as he tries to swing it on, but she manages to block it effortlessly with her rapier. He then runs away to try and get some footing. Now then, this is where we start to get on doing a bit of an interrogation, asking Diodora if his father is Ironside of the Four Perils, with not really an answer, but kind of confirming it. Diodora actually asks, "What do you know about me?" As An says, "So it is true." She then goes on to ask more, stating, "Then do you know about him? The boy who was forced to walk a sad, cruel path this whole life because of you." Now last chapter, people were kind of saying that what An was stating to Diodora was definitely uncalled for and kind of unnecessarily cruel and dumping the blame onto Diodora. But at least in this chapter, we get a bit more of an explanation as An is actually asking Diodora if he actually knows about Percival's circumstance. And Percival is still kind of wondering why she's doing this because still at the end of the day, Diodora isn't fully at fault at this anyway. It's all Ironside. But that's then when Diodora gets angry as he says, "I don't know anything about that," as he continues to try and land a blow on An, as she keeps parrying blows with a barrage of afterimages due to her sacred weapons abilities. Now we get a bit on the sideline of Diodora's attendants, with one of them trying to pep him up from the side, telling him to look out for everything, but the other one with the goatee ends up stating that there is a huge difference in their combat level, as Diodora is falling down on the ground, breathing heavily. As An says, "I just don't understand. You have a caring father, a privileged upbringing. You wanted for nothing in your life. You had everything. So why are you in this prison where the discontent and doubtful are sent?" Also, I just like that there's like one panel of the inmates being like, "What is she talking about?" Diodora ends up asking her, "What would you, of all people, even know about me?" Now, before we get into that, I just want to say I think it's interesting that An is saying this to Diodora because remember, she was a noble of her hometown. She basically didn't really technically need anything in her life. She had her father who loved and cared for her. She had her citizens that she was looking out for. She had a relatively privileged life. The only thing that was missing was her mother, and what kept her going was her drive to become a holy knight, which is kind of similar to Diodora in a sense. So if we really take a step back, they're kind of similar in a way, and so I think An is trying to see what's driving Diodora because she probably sees a bit of a similarity to him, as well as also kind of her own viewpoints of just like, this guy is partly to blame for all the shit Percival's gone through, even though it's 100% Ironside's fault. She still kind of, at this moment, wants a way to just tell Diodora about all the shit his father has done. Or I'm just digging too deep into things. Let me know. But that's then when Diodora ends up yelling at An, saying, "I'm under no obligation to provide an answer to someone I've never even met." Fair. But by refusing to answer her question, he ends up falling victim to her ability Interrogator, as he then is forced down onto the ground by refusing to answer her questions, as he's being pinned down by the weight of his own technical lie and inability to answer. Now I like that we get some images of Beltrup as he's going over the information in this fight, slowly picking pieces of information and putting things together, saying that this effect triggered after the question was asked and essentially not getting an answer. And it could be the spell that he's heard of, the rumors for Interrogator. And he states that she might be a part of their team. But as he says this, he's wondering, wait, how odd. I can't seem to recall whose team I'm referring to. And obviously, as we get an image of An, and An saying, if you don't answer me, that's fine. Soon you'll just pass out and then I win. Obviously referring to a close-up of the ring. So this confirms that the rings do kind of mask any recollection of them while they're wearing the rings in close proximity. So, okay, rings do definitely have their usefulness once again. I complained about that in the past with everything that's going on with everybody using their abilities and such, but now this makes more sense. But the fact that Beltrop is slowly putting the pieces together, he might be able to break through this eventually, depending on how big of a force and attack he ends up seeing, and it might break through the spell eventually. I'm not entirely sure. But Beltrop finding out that the four Knights of the Apocalypse, well, three of them and their allies are in this tournament, is definitely raising higher and higher in terms of the possibility of them being found out. So that adds a bit more tension and stakes to this section of the story to see how this will play out. Now, one of his attendees asked the other one that if this keeps up, then he'll lose. And they're frustratingly watching as Diodra is being pinned down to the ground, as Diodra is lamenting over everything, saying, I was privileged, I wanted for nothing, I had everything. Yes, I am the son of Ironside, but that is all I possess. No power, no magic, not even a sound body. I'm only able to survive thanks to my father in the land of Camelot. Which, yeah, a big distinction from what I said with the relatability between him and An is the fact that Diodra has a very sickly body. He has no fighting capabilities in terms of magic or pure strength. He does have good technique thanks to Mortlage's training, so there's that, but other than that, he doesn't really have what it takes to be a capable fighter in this incredibly chaotic world. And it's only thanks to being a Camelot and Ironside that he's actually able to live a life. He then calls himself a worthless human being, but states that his father didn't mind. He just smiled kindly at him, stating, as long as you're with me, son. Showcasing that, yeah, Ironside is a terrible piece of shit, but we all know that to his own actual son, he is the kindest person in the world to him. And this is when Diodra lets it slip that now Ironside completely forgot about him, their lives together, their life experiences, all of it. Doesn't even know that Diodra even exists. And he blames it on the Four Knights of the Apocalypse, and now he is here to get those memories back, as An is now realizing everything that's going on. Now, the guy off on the side grabs onto the goatee attendant who is named Turret, as he then casts a spell as Percival in an instant senses something. As in the very next page, part of An's body warps as she's then flung to the side like a rag doll, as she's plopped right down onto the ground. As beyond anybody's real knowledge of what's going on, An just seemed to have just been flung across the arena by seemingly something invisible. Now everyone is flabbergasted by this. Diodra instantly realizes what's going on, and that Turret did something. An tries to get up as she's trying to talk tough, saying, oh, you've done it now. But Diodra tells her to stay down, as this invisible force hits her from the behind again, in this one panel showcasing how bent and just destroyed her left arm holding her rapier still is just kind of brutal. As in the following pages, we will see An get brutalized by this invisible force. And Percival's trying to have the fight stopped because there's an invincible creature in the ring. But the announcer's like, does this thing even exist? How do you even know that's the case? Now, Rothus, this is the other guy's name because I just learned his name now, tells Turret to call it off. But Turret says, do you want to win this though? As An keeps getting flung off to the side, trying to get up, as she's continuously pounded down by some monstrous force, continuously slamming her into the ground, smashing her bones, as she coughs off blood, and is then beginning to fade and lose consciousness, as she continues to get flung across the arena, with everybody just watching on in horror, asking for someone to stop this, otherwise she's going to die. And as we continuously see these invisible footprints going towards An, we then hear a thunk. We see an image of An in her old rapier stabbed into the ground in front of her, as everybody looks up, seeing Percival floating in the air. As he then touches down, goes to An, picks her up. And we see this one singular panel of just An completely beaten down and broken, unconscious, with Percival holding her in his arms. Now, Diodora, in this situation, said something that he really shouldn't have, at least in this context, or the way he said it, says, "I can't afford to lose this fight no matter what, but I'm sorry. I hope you'll forgive me." And Percival says something that I did not expect him to really say to Diodora of all people, but my God. Percival says, "I won't, no matter what the reason you have," as Percival looks deathly at Diodora as the chapter ends. So, the battle between brothers is going to happen in the following matchups in the semifinals, but my goodness was this brutal. On got done dirty in this fight. She was dead to rights going to win, but the guy just used the loophole, the fact that his power was invisible, to kind of assist on the sidelines, and nearly kill On in this instance. Now, On definitely couldn't fight back due to the fact that that thing, whatever it was invisible, but still, that is just crazy to think about. I like the interaction On is having with Diodora, kind of finding some middle ground, trying to learn more about him, seeing that he didn't understand or know anything of what happened with Percival, had no knowledge of it, and is now gotten the information that Ironside has lost his memories, so there's definitely going to be something there in the future, hopefully, to see how things will play out. But while this fight was really cool, On got done dirty, and the fact that people are upset, I fully understand. I don't like that she got done so dirty, but it's the only logical thing we could do, unless Diodora had some overpowered magic ability awaken in this chapter and take her out, and I think at the same time, we all would have been upset. So, Nakaba definitely wants to get the fight between Diodora and Percival to happen, but this was the only real way he could do so. And I cannot wait for Turret to get taken out, because I think he's fighting Gawain, and you betcha Gawain is going to utterly destroy him. I wouldn't be surprised if Percival is not the one to take this guy out, because it's going to be Gawain. It is going to be brutal. I wouldn't be surprised if Gawain would be out for blood in this instance. Same way that Percival is. At the end of the chapter, he knows that most likely that Diodora didn't really have any control over it, but he still is pissed that On got done so dirty and was nearly killed and brutalized in this fight. So I think he's just seeing red at this point. It isn't taking shit from anybody right now. Also, the fact that Beltrop is slowly putting the pieces together as these fights go on, he'll definitely figure out that Percival and the rest of the knights outside of Lancelot and their allies are all fighting in this tournament. So yeah, things are going to be ramping up even more soon, and I cannot wait to see what happens next. But that's all I got for this chapter. Let me know in the comments section down below how you feel about this chapter, what happened with On, everything going on with Diodora, and how do you think things are going to pan out for the future for these fights. And what do you hope will happen to Turret once Gawain gets a hold of her? Let me know in the comment section down below. And if you haven't already, like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. With all that said and done, I hope you all have an awesome day.